And this is Real Estate Underground.
Greetings and salutations, everyone in Real Estate Underground land. How are you? This is Ed Matthews. Today is actually a really cool show. Not only is it a conversation with another real estate investor, which I'm always fired up about, but also this person has figured out a way to run her empire from someplace else in the world, someplace that I would very much like to visit someday. So Lauren Coates, welcome to the show, and thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Ed. It's a pleasure to be here today and speak with your audience.
I'm glad we're finally getting to catch up. So Lauren, and I usually tell my guests this. I've been stalking you online for a few months now, and I've all good. But I've been interested in your business and how you've gotten into this business and your perspective, which I think is really unique. And so, I wanted to get you on the show so that our audience could learn from you. So thank you again for joining us. For those folks out there that don't know who you are and haven't spent time stalking you, can you just kind of lay out who you are, what you do, and then we can dive in.
Sure, I'd love to. So my name is Lauren, and I have a huge passion for travel. Since I was young, my goal was to travel and see the world. So it was quite serendipitous the way I came into my work. After traveling the world for many years, I returned to Los Angeles with the desire to start my own business. And there I was able to connect with some property owners, some developers, and start to run 6 rentals simultaneously. I quickly came into a lot of money and a huge cash flow that I had never seen before. And I felt like I need to share this with other people. So in 2018, I wrote a book, Airbnb Beginner's Guide, which is for sale on Amazon. And it was basically just a download blueprint, exactly what I was doing, exactly how I ran my team. And I was able to automate the business to then become a remote traveling host. So during the pandemic, there were some new challenges, which made me dive deep into market research. And I found that traveling nurses and doctors were the way to fill your Airbnbs during that crisis. So I quickly got a bunch of friends who ran Airbnbs asking me, how are you succeeding? And I just transitioned basically to be a consultant. Since then, I've been helping property owners develop their own marketing strategy because as a property owner with real estate, you often want to set the conditions of who's coming into your home, that you're comfortable with. Obviously, it's such a huge investment. And that quickly transitioned to the need for a course, a kind of coaching program. We do it together. And also just the education, the general education about this financial path to freedom that I kind of found and am astounded, I'm going to be honest, at how easy it is. There's so much joy that goes into hosting travelers. And when you automate it and optimize it with a trustworthy team that's performing, this cash cow is unstoppable. So that's my message. And
okay, I'm sold. Where do I sign up?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically how I came into it and what I'm up to. Now I'm an educator, I'm a coach, and I'm a consultant for anything short-term rental.
Excellent. Well, one of the things you said when we were talking before I hit record really struck a chord with me, and that is, how much, material is out there, and frankly, how committed you are to giving back to this real estate community, and it's something that, it's why this podcast exists, right? And, I don't advertise, there's no subscriptions. This is just, our ability as a guest and a host to kind of say, okay, here are the things, we're all, as I always say, we're all reading the same book, right? You're probably a few chapters ahead of me. I may be a few chapters ahead of somebody out in the audience. And, I think we've both been blessed with a lot of help and a lot of mentors. And so, mentors typically don't get paid. They don't get a piece of your deal. The way you pay back mentors is by paying it forward, right? And so I admire your approach. And that was actually one of the things that really resonated with me and why I wanted to do this interview, frankly. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I completely agree on every single point.
Yeah. So let's get into, short-term rentals, both from a vacation perspective, as well as, for medical professionals has always intrigued me, right? I have a membership to Furnished Finder. I've kind of checked out, and we actually have one property, and it's like you said, it's gone ridiculously well. And I first learned the kind of the ins and outs from a lady named Robin Thompson, who's based in the Midwest. Actually, she's based in Florida, but a lot of her properties are in the Midwest. And she was kind enough to throw an arm around me and be a mentor for that one property. So, but I want to hear your perspective. And so the other thing is, from a systems perspective, right? To be able to actually run a business that doesn't require you to be there, right? It's not a job, it's a business that you own. And so, I want to hear, how you look at this type of business, and what types of systems have you set up to give you the freedom that you clearly have?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost with an Airbnb business, it kind of depends on if you're coming in to create a job for yourself. So
Right.
you're getting the 100% of the income, or
Right.
if this is a job that you really are looking to make passive and semi-passive.
Right.
So as it is your baby, your real estate, your investment, there's maintenance that goes along with it. It's
Right.
super important to have a trustworthy team. So
Yeah.
I
So
find
true.
that trust building with the property manager, with the host, is kind of foundational. And I do kind of exercises and expanding the opportunity for them to come back to me and show me how much they can handle and be reliable. So I would say optimizing that in a first level is going to be with your cleaning team. You really have to make your cleaners available. They have to be flexible. They have to prioritize you. And that's kind of a foundational part of like actually running the Airbnb. And the cleaners are also property managers. So they are looking for damage, they are reporting damage, they have to have a little bit of a wider skill set and availability to take a little bit more responsibility in
Mhm.
the job. And it is a hit or miss really when you're working with cleaners. Either they're able to tune in to what's needed,
Right.
or they are just kind of going on autopilot and putting your business at risk. So I'd say that's important.
Yeah. So I'm curious, when you're bringing a new cleaner on, right, or a cleaning team on, how do you get them incorporated into your process, your culture, making sure that they understand what their responsibilities are? Is it as simple as a checklist, or is it more elaborate? I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more elaborate.
Okay.
So I did develop a system based on, hiring and firing a huge amount of cleaners, which
Yeah.
didn't feel good. So first and foremost, I share with them the checklist. I let them know exactly what's needed and what's expected. I share with them also the actual platform, what the actual platform looks like, how we get a review score. We're scored on the cleaning. And then as well, that letting them know that if they don't do a good job, I could lose thousands of dollars in an
Right.
instant. As well as that, I like to work with the head cleaner system. This is where you have one cleaner that you talk to, you give her the schedule, you train her or him, and they have their own team. And
Right.
they bring
That
the
makes sense.
team. Yeah, exactly. So then they're interchangeable. After a few trainings, it's like that.
Right.
Me personally, what I found worked the best being out of the area, I like to slightly overpay my cleaners. So I want to pay them top dollar
Smart.
so they don't want to lose this job and they care about my feedback.
Right.
I did develop a kind of a fee system because, as you know, when you're doing hourly, they might just hang around to, slow mo. And then
Right.
if you do a flat rate, maybe they're going to go in and out.
Right.
So I developed and negotiated a flat rate, and then I had a fee system. So I said, hey, I'm going to pop in randomly. I'll text you when I'm on my way, but I'm going to do an inspection. And if I find errors based on the checklist, you're going to be deducted $5, $10 penalties. And I
Right.
use that as like an initial training, an initial kind of building trust, letting them know that
Smart.
they are accountable and responsible.
Excellent. And so, so obviously you're based now in Brazil, is that right? Or
Yes,
you're in Brazil right now? Yeah.
Yes, I'm based in California, but for the meantime, I'm going to be in Brazil. I'm looking at land and ranches and organic
Excellent.
farms where I'd like to make my first tiny home.
Cool. Well, hey, well played, by the way. Hats off. So are your properties predominantly in the LA area, or are they elsewhere?
Oh, so I work technically with property owners. A lot of the Airbnbs that I'm managing and doing the strategy are in Richmond, Virginia, which is actually where
Okay.
I grew up,
Okay.
and Los Angeles. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you're dropping by, you're obviously, part of your role here is to kind of swoop into Richmond every so often, take a look at the properties at a management level, and obviously you're doing a spot check on the cleaning services, and then heading home to LA, doing the same thing, and then gallivanting all over the rest of the world when you can, right? Is that the model?
Yeah, I would say that in the initial setup of the property, I really do that. So I'll hang around there and I will test the cleaners, build the trust with the co-host, with the emergency on call on site
Great.
assistance.
Gotcha.
That, yeah. And then when I feel like the machine is well oiled, then I will leave.
Okay.
I learned that from experience because I just started and I was like, oh, you're going to be able to do it. And then I left, and then it was a huge expense to come back and
Right.
rehire, you know.
Right. And better to invest the time up front and get a team that's firing on all cylinders. And that way, you build a level of trust in them and vice versa, right? They understand, you become predictable in their world, which, everyone wants to be led, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. And so now I'm curious about your consulting business. So, obviously, like in my past many years ago, I was a flipper, and we would come into a neighborhood and take a house that had not been loved in a long time, and throw a lot of love on it, and make it beautiful. And then invariably the neighbors would come, hey, can you do that to my house, right? And our answer was no, but we have references that will, we're more than happy to introduce you. So I'm curious, how did you make the transition from you know host and owner of these properties to consultant with partners and clients?
Yeah, I would say it was during the pandemic. A lot of
Okay.
Airbnb hosts were struggling and they
Okay.
saw and knew that I was succeeding. So through kind of my network of my referrals and
I
friends, and
got you.
I just
Okay.
getting tanking, and
Yeah.
then I got really into the data. I got really into AirDNA and scouring the internet for other techniques.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. And so, obviously, so past consultant, right? In my corporate world. And, one of the things a mentor of mine had said to me was, part of being a consultant is you have to think more broadly and for your clients, right? So that means, like you were saying, you're gathering information and more data and turning it into information from a whole different bunch of sources, learning best practices over here and then applying them to the rest of the portfolio. Like, hey, that really works, I should tell that to the rest of my clients. And so, is that kind of the practice for you as well? Or are you setting them up and then, there's another process involved in terms of, doing quarterly check-ins and helping with asset management and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I work with aspiring Airbnb short-term rental
Okay.
entrepreneurs, beginning from scratch, going on AirDNA, looking at the research, really making a business plan and evaluating like what can this property actually get,
Got
and
it.
what marketing strategy and positioning is needed based on the competitive rentals. So we do a deep dive into what's around you, what
Right.
are they doing well, what are they failing on, and then how are we going to outshine to make yours the no-brainer. So I would say it's really the setup, the research, and the positioning, and building the trustworthy team. But I also work with established Airbnb hosts already that are not pulling in the money that they want to do, and I would say it's a similar process. It's kind of I mentioned at the beginning about my world traveling because I really come to this as a traveler. I was on the road
Right.
for about 7 years, living off of Airbnbs.
Yeah.
So I kind some people haven't had that experience where they're like desperately searching for a comfortable, safe looking listing,
Right.
and because they need to relax and they've been on the road too long.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when I work with both groups, it's really like showing the property owner, what do we need to communicate that the traveler is going to emotionally connect to,
That
that's
makes a
going
lot
to
of sense.
be that's going to emotionally draw in the traveler.
Yeah, and you come at it from such a unique experience because you've been that guest, right? And you've had that experience, which is invaluable. I can only imagine. So when you're looking at a property, so one of the things I'm fascinated by is the hosting guests, right, who are traveling for vacation or pleasure, and medical professionals who are traveling because of work, right? And so two questions really. One is, how do you decide which model is appropriate? And I guess the next question is, do you even have to decide? Is it a is there some sort of cycle to it that you can do both?
Oh, definitely. So I'm mega passionate about reverse engineering the lifestyle goals and dreams of the host. We can
You
have
really
our
do
own
think deep.
business.
Okay.
Yeah, but if we are a slave to the operations and it's not giving us the freedom that we actually desire, that's not needed, because
Yeah.
Airbnb offers that ultimate
Yeah.
flexibility. So I would say the first point is, how much work do they want? Do they want to have 2-day, 3-day turnarounds where they're texting their cleaners, making sure their cleaners came in, or are they paying that 15 to 25% for a co-host to run everything for them? So yeah, I would say the minimum night count, as well as the strategy of who we're going to target, also has to do with their comfort level.
Sure.
Obviously, a lot of property owners would love to have traveling professionals who have a big budget from their company,
Of course.
which happens to be the Furnish Finder model. So
Yeah.
I encourage the host to review the data of the local market, run the numbers. Is it profitable if I hire a co-host? Is it not? Okay, can I just do longer term rentals for professionals, connect with some real estate agents? People are coming into town. They need a safe place to stay where they look for their dream home. And, we go on that longer term. So there are different profit margins on both models. And the flexibility is you can kind of flip between them. So you could start as a DIY, doing everything yourself, training the cleaners, things like that. Then you could, hire someone to take care of some of it for $20 an hour, however much you want to spend. And then you could also just take this and scale. And while you're looking at new properties and you're kind of busy, make a minimum night count that's longer, so you don't have to do any extra work with the turnarounds.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, I'm curious about the profitability. Like, the metric that I've always heard is, with a single family home, if you can rent it out on a monthly basis, an annualized lease, you can get hypothetically $1,000 a month. Invariably, with a short-term rental, you can get, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 for that same property, given you got to manage the moving parts of that. But is that realistic?
Yeah, I would say it definitely depends on the property. So some in the location, obviously. So some properties,
Yeah.
they don't even have to be in a good neighborhood. They just happen to be in a great market. There's the supply and demand is in their favor.
Yeah.
So they're getting, let's say, $300 a night on Airbnb, and they're doing 2-day turnarounds and they're managing it all themselves. Well, wow, they're looking at $5,000 in profit, but they are doing the work.
But they're humping, right? They're doing a lot of work, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you're providing a unique experience, like if you have a ranch or a bungalow in a unique next to a river, and you can kind of brand it as a weekend retreat and have some yoga mats and some board games and kind of frame it, then people are willing to pay more for that. If you have just an economy furnished place, really basic, there's nothing really sparkling or special about it. You're looking at around $100 a night or up for an entire home, kind of at the minus level. And then you're running those numbers and saying, wow, okay, I'm getting 2,800 a month for that.
Right. I get it. Okay. So the other thing I'm curious about is, host versus superhost, right? And obviously being a superhost is really advantageous in terms of, you get preferred listing, you're in a preferred spot in the listings and a whole bunch of other stuff, which way more about than I do. Is it worth, engaging with, and I'm going to throw out a couple of names so that we don't have to talk about someone specific, but like Evolve or Red Awning or some of the other management companies out there that, say that, okay, if you sign up with us, we're already a super host, and we will help you boost your listings so that you get, you can ramp your business up faster. Is that something that you've ever looked into, and is that something you advocate for? Or?
Definitely. I'm glad you brought up Evolve. Actually, really glad you brought up this question because I had a sales call with Evolve a few months ago and I was so impressed. I've never worked on them one-to-one, but they have a phenomenal business model where they're going to send out a photographer for free that's going to do the conversion photography. They're going to write your listing. They're going to do all the price optimization. They're going to do the marketing. They're going to do all the guest communications for 10%. That's quite an incredible service, especially because they have professional copywriters and things like that. Right. What I understood from Evolve is that they are going to put your listing under their name. Right. So I guess in that case, their superhost would apply. So for anyone who's not interested in doing it themselves and learning themselves how to create a powerful listing and really optimize it or work with an expert like me, and they just have a property, it's furnished, and they just want it to succeed from the beginning, I would recommend Evolve because because they're working on percentages in their highest and best interest. As far as Superhost, I don't find that getting Superhost is so challenging. There are just a few key components that you really have to authentically represent your space on Airbnb. Okay. 5 stars is very much about you fulfilled my expectations. It's not about being a Ritz-Carlton. Right. Yeah. And then I think you have to respond. You have to host a certain amount of people and you have to have a 4.8. So I think Superhost is super obtainable for people as long as they make the listing with integrity and then provide incredible customer service. But yeah, I would recommend for people in the United States, North America, if they're more coming in an investor angle or as a real estate investor and they're not looking to create a job for themselves with managing it, I would super recommend that route.
Yeah. So thanks for that. So I'm curious in terms of, so that's kind of where the line is, right? In terms of where services that you provide are more about someone who wants to manage, at least at a high level, their own portfolio versus actually worrying about doing the break fix, all the photography, listings, and all that, where you can outsource that to another company, right? Is that kind of the line that you draw in terms of your service?
I would say the line is perhaps a slightly more to the left. Okay. For me, it's really important that when people are thinking about doing Airbnb, that they look at the AirDNA data. This is crucial. This is going to show you the occupancy rate for exact similar properties in your area with charts and graphs. So it could be that your particular property doesn't support really the local vacation rental market. It's overpopulated. You're not offering anything that's sparkling enough. You don't want to redecorate. So I would say I more work with people who are interested in becoming an Airbnb host, interested in starting the business, and are ready to write a business plan, do a little bit of data research, figure out if they want to do it, and then how they want to move forward with setting it up. And then I would hand it over to Evolve. I'm more of getting the space ready, setting up the space, decorating it, and doing the marketing strategy to position it for success from the beginning. And then handing it over to a co-host, handing it over to a rental company to create the listing, do the photography for you. So I don't think Evolve would be able to help you really understand the interior design or the business operations side.
Right. Makes sense. So let me get this straight. As a professional, you have to do due diligence to figure out your target market is correct and that the property fits with the model that you want to put in place. Then you have to create a plan. This sounds vaguely familiar. And then execute on that plan. And at that point, you may get some help from an outside manager, but until then, you actually have to have your act together. How about that?
Yeah, you gotta get the fruit basket, you gotta fill it with fruit, and then you can hand it over to someone to photograph it and sell it for you online.
Awesome. I love it. So I'm curious, you've obviously had mentors and you clearly run a well-run business. That I'm curious, what advice you got and what's the best advice you got and who gave it to you?
Let's see. To be honest, I learn constantly online. I'm one of those watching, studying new things
Love
every
that.
single day,
Yeah.
the blessing of the internet.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I didn't have any mentors in this real estate. I'm very much like a self-taught kind of nerd in that aspect. As far as the best advice I've ever received from someone, I mean, it's very, very cliche, but I've had many people come into my life and tell me to believe in myself.
Yeah.
And cliche, but so powerful.
Yeah. Turns out it's accurate though, right?
Yeah,
Because if you
because
won't believe in yourself, no one will, right?
yeah, and whatever you believe is possible for yourself, that's the line.
Yep. Yep. You're probably right. If that's what if that's what you believe you're capable of, you're right. Right. So the other part of that is expand your horizons because you never know what you're capable of. But that's kind of a next level thing. So, okay. So, one of the things I'm always asking about is, leaders, investors, leaders tend to be readers, right? And, reading today is kind of it's an amorphous label, right? Because, people consume information in so many different ways. I listen to audiobooks. Sounds like you listen to videos and watch videos. Other folks, still believe that the tactile book and turning of the pages and all that, they feel, it feels good. And that's what they do. And others go to seminars and webinars and all that. So I'm curious, is online study, is that predominantly your mode of learning, and who are you paying attention to these days? I'm just curious about that.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, I self-study on YouTube. I buy audiobooks. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I find business content is easiest for me to consume through audiobooks. I
Yep.
find that it's potent enough, but also completely resonating.
Yep.
I do also read books. I'd say I got my more practical study books, I got my fiction books, and I got my just kind of pleasure books as well. Right now, I'm studying NLP. I have a book that I'm
Oh yeah.
studying
All right.
just for fun, just adding
Yeah.
another understanding of how powerful my words can be and
Right.
how whatever I'm saying to myself is creating my reality. It's just a little bit of a scientific viewpoint.
I'm a huge fan, and in fact, I'm a devout follower of Mr. Tony Robbins. So, he is
Yes.
yes. So, I'm a business mastery graduate, and I hired one of his coaches, and I can tell you that understanding how your brain works and the story you tell yourself is probably one of the more important indicators as to whether or not you're going to achieve the dreams that you create for yourself, right? And like I was saying earlier, if you believe you can, you will. If you believe you can't, you won't, right? And the story you tell yourself is state, story, are two very important things, right? And the energy you bring to it. So I'm curious about the coaching program. So if I wanted to get involved and I wanted to hire you to be my coach, what would be the process there?
Amazing. So, first and foremost, we'd probably jump on a discovery call and
Okay.
we'd talk about what are your financial goals? Tell me about your property, or tell me about this property you are thinking about getting
Okay.
into, either through arbitrage, something like that. And then we would really dive into how you see the business. So, I want to see the big vision. Are you
Right.
working? Are you sipping pina coladas? Are you have a trustworthy co-host? I really want to get the full picture,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to, with you, kind of reverse engineer the first steps. So I think from this discovery call, you'd kind of understand, like, okay, what are the first things that I need to pay attention to, that I need to look at? What's my homework?
Right.
So I would give you some homework. Yeah. And then once you've done your homework, we would come back together and then we would jump into the course. And the course is a lesson by lesson with some short videos that are explaining concepts. We have chapters from my book you can read for more in-depth knowledge. And once you start to tap your feet into teaching yourself, what is this business about? How do I do it? What should I be looking at?
Right.
What date, what numbers do I need? Then when you're ready, we jump on another call. It'd be about 2 or 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're really going to fine tune and hone in on exactly what your offer is going to be, what your next steps are. And then you continue learning, and we communicate by email with any questions that you feel stuck. And we can always jump on another call to bring you some clarity. But I do find it. I don't know how you feel about this, but when I started my own business with Airbnb, I was excited. I woke up and I was like, today I'm going to go deep clean this apartment and go to
Same.
IKEA. And like, I was getting high voltage energy because
Yeah.
I was building and creating my own thing. And
Right.
I wasn't afraid because I knew that I was going to do it and I was capable of doing it. So I really feel like if people can just step over the line from I'm thinking about it, but I'm afraid, to jumping over to like, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to give this a go. The benefits are so huge. The
Right.
freedom that I can achieve is so big. I can make this passive,
Yeah.
I just need to formulate it. I would love to work with clients who are excited and come to it with I can do this, I'm going to do this. And really they want to learn with an expert because like you with being a consultant, it's like, yeah, you can grow your garden and watch bugs eat it and be like, why didn't it work? Or
Right.
you can spend one day with a master grower who's going to show you exactly what to do and you're going to be eating ripe tomatoes all year long.
Sounds good to me. Big fan of ripe tomatoes, and the money that comes with it, right? So as far as if someone wants to reach out to you and find you, and join your program, what is the best way to reach you?
Yeah. So we have a link, I'm sure, in the show notes or
Yep, sure will.
accessible to the audience for my Calendly. And there you can book a free discovery call to really jump into what are your big dreams here? What are we going to do together? And then on Teachable, you can also take take a look at the link and see my landing page that talks more in depth about the course. And then, that is where it could be purchased. But I'd love to jump on a call. I also have a meet and greet option if you don't want to commit to a discovery call where we can just chat and get to know each other
See if
and
there's a connection, right?
see if you want to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, Lauren Coates, thank you so much for your wisdom today. I'm excited for you, and one of the things that I always admire about people who get into their own businesses, you said it and it really kind of stuck in my ear, which was, you get up in the morning and you're all fired up to go deep clean an apartment, and I think that shows two things. One, clearly you're passionate about this business, which is awesome. And living passionately is a far better way to live than without passion, right? But the other part of it is, it's clear that you figured out why you're doing this as well, right? And I suspect that is from the freedom that you have to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, and not have to email a boss or pick up the phone and call her and say, hey, can I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off next week? Because sometimes the answer is no. So that must feel good too. So I'm curious about your why, and am I hitting the nail on the head?
Yeah, you've completely hit the nail on the head. As I don't know how many viewers will connect with this, but I've always been a free spirit. I've always marched to the beat of my own drum. I've always had visions for what I was here to do. And people would tell me, why don't you do this or do that? And I just don't feel it. But when
Right.
I feel it, wow, I have endless power.
Right.
So it really, to be honest, it pains me a lot to see people working in jobs that they don't like and with bosses that don't treat them, with enough freedom to take care of their loved ones or whatever they need to do. And
Right.
uh, I've never been a big into, conforming. I think I have like a limit to how far I can compromise. So
Yeah.
for me, I just I have these golden keys in my bag, and I just want people to have access to all this information so
Yes.
they can liberate themselves from and start to live the life they really want to live. Because I find that once you have the security aspect taken, you got cash coming in,
Yep.
then you can get creative.
Yeah.
Then you can start to dream big. Then you can tap into, what do I actually want to do with my life? And that's where I'd love to take people into, because we need more people that are excited about what they do and that are living their passions, and and less people who are sacrificing their joy.
Amen to that. Well, Lauren Coates, thank you so much. You're an absolute inspiration, and you're also really good at your job. So I'm looking forward to continuing to follow. I may be one of your students someday, because short-term rentals has always been a place where I wanted to spend a little bit of time. I get something out of creating a home and delivering that for our residents. But there's something about being able to serve folks that are just looking to get away and kind of turn it off for a few days and give them a wonderful place that they can be really excited to be in and have fun and spend time with family. And the other part of it is there's something to be said for serving the medical community as well, because they have one of the hardest jobs, as evidenced by the last 3 or 4 years, that you can possibly imagine. So being able to serve them and give them a clean and safe and happy home is also really inspiring. So Lauren, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on all your success, and I look forward to hearing more as you grow your own empire.
Thanks so much, Ed. I really appreciate it. One last thing I'd love to drop for the audience, that like you just stated, the amount of gratitude and thank yous that you get from your guests, that is so fulfilling. I know few businesses where your clients actually send you love letters after the service. And that's very common with Airbnb. So it may be intimidating at the beginning, but when you implement a trustworthy team and you design a beautiful space, it's really running on autopilot. It's not stressful, and the money is so large with real estate. And of course, you can always invest in a multifamily and then set up a few Airbnbs inside that multifamily. You have to check the legality, and then you're really just printing money, I'd say.
Hear, hear. All right, Lauren. Well, thank you. And bon voyage.
Thanks, Ed.
All right. Nice to see you.